to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday, and I have my friend Peter Lang with me today, the designer CPA. Hi, Pete. How you doing today?
I'm okay, LuAnn. How are you?
Peter, you're hysterical. I think what it is I know you so well. And so what's so funny is just that very calm, I'm okay. That is, you see, Peter, this is what we want in our CPA. The whole world is crazy right now, but you're still calm. I love that about you.
That's my job.
That's it. So if this is new for you, if you have not met Peter Lang, the designer CPA, please take a listen back to episodes number 349 and number 464. Peter is an interior designer. Peter is a CPA who,
Not yet.
That's right, who specializes and works specifically only with interior designers. And this is like magic land right now because, you know, the nuances of an interior design firm, what's deductible, what's not deductible. You know, how do you, allocate different things and what do you do? You get a big check for $200,000, but how much of it is product and how much it is design fees and how much is for employees in the electric? And Peter knows the ins and outs of the interior design business and specialize in it. So it's a fantastic resource for you. Also, he is a co-author in my second book. The second book is A Well-Designed Business, the Power Talk Friday Experts. And so great resources. And of course, Peter has courses and he has free information on his website. But today, Peter and I are getting together because in the middle of COVID-19, there is lots of things coming out. And, Peter texted me literally yesterday and said, would you like some information for your listeners on COVID-19? And I was like, yes, sir. Yes, I would. And before we get to this conversation, I just want to say thank you to Article for sponsoring the show. And if you have not opened up your trade account at Article yet, please go to welldesigned.article.com. And I've been saying it, I'm kind of a little broken record about it, but we do have a lot of people that are in their homes, sheltering in place, that I know do have resources and funds and are looking at their homes and saying, I really wish I could spruce this up. And we have Kravit is available and they are up and running, and so is Article. And Article particularly can turn things around and deliver in days. And so you can really be a hero to your client. You could be on a FaceTime virtual consultation with them on Monday, and they can have furniture in their house by Thursday, by Friday, like legit. So welldesigned.article.com. All righty, Peter, let's dig in and let's talk about the things that we need to understand as business owners in this climate, exactly in this real time right now, at this middle of this crisis. Where do we want to start? You want to start with the deadlines for the income tax and all of that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so normally, if you haven't filed your 2019 tax return at this point, you would have to either file a return or file an extension by April 15th. You also would have to, the IRS in the states would expect the payment that's due, if you have an additional payment, by that April 15th date. And you also technically would be responsible for quarter 1 2020 by April 15th. And now with all of the stuff that is currently going on, they've pushed all of those April 15th dates to July 15th. So it gives us an additional 90 days to get that information in to them.
Okay, and the thing about this is You know me, Peter. I know enough to be dangerous sometimes with this stuff. So I'm going to go on based on what goes through my mind when you say that. On one hand, when I filter it through the lens of what we are dealing with at Window Works right now, Vin is assessing every day, and he first came to an assessment of our cash on hand, and then he's assessing every day where he can leverage any money that we can put off to pay out, not necessarily because we don't have it, but because we're sort of it's almost like a balancing act, right? Like if I don't have to pay that now, I'm not going to go spend it on something necessarily unless I need to keep my employees, whatever it is. Because so my point in that is even if you're sitting with the money to pay, there's some argument to be made that says, well, maybe you do that extension, right? Because you don't know how much is this going to impact your operating expenses, maybe to pay your studio rent or your gas and electric or employees. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
And not to, this wasn't my thing, but to make things more complicated, the IRS did not change the second quarter 2020 estimated payment deadline of June 15th. Okay. So, not to confuse anyone, but if I was in a situation, which I even am in my own business, of, okay, how much money should I have been paying in on April 15th? I would just kind of wait and just see what happens over the next 4 to 8 weeks, and then get a payment in for 2020 by June 15th. Mm-hmm. You have until June 15th. I wouldn't go and blow off the money that you might have due from last year, but certainly this gives us an opportunity to wait and see what happens over the next month or two. Right. With our businesses, especially with the 2020 estimated payments. Like right now, you could have had a killer Q1 and you might be like, my phone isn't ringing. That Q2 profit may or may not be, and for most businesses, it's not going to look the way that you thought it would.
Right.
So holding that money, not paying it right away, and then this allows us to kind of get a bigger sense of where your profit is going to be 4 or 5 months into the year.
Right. It's almost like, it's like a poker game. We're kind of holding our cards a little. We're like,
exactly.
Right. We're not throwing them away. We're not getting rid of the money. We're not spending it on something else, unless we need to, right? Like literally need to in order to survive. But it's like a wait and see. But also I love the distinction there that just because the payments that were due April 15th are not due until July 15th, your June 15th payment is due June 15th.
Correct,
that didn't get pushed back. So don't make a mistake and have a penalty because you just made an assumption that June wasn't due.
Yeah. So even though they're giving you 90 days for certain things, I would tell all my clients, or I am telling all my clients, we really have an extra 60 days to kind of decide what we're going to do. We certainly want to get that anything you owe for 2019, you certainly want to get that in before it's due. You don't want any interest and penalties on that. Mm-hmm. But it does give us, let's say 60 days to kind of get a clearer picture of 2020.
Okay, makes sense. And then I guess for argument's sake, let's say that we only can speak to the conversation that on June 15th, we have the funds available to make our payment. And on July 15th, we have the funds, because it's a whole nother conversation if something so catastrophic is happening in your business that you can't even make those dates, right? You got to get on the phone with your CPA and really plan for your particular business, correct?
Correct. I mean, so just to talk about what's going on in a CPA's head right now. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I'm not even every year since 2020. I don't even see the light of day this time of year, right? Right. But it gives you more time. But in our head, as a tax preparer, I'm still like, if someone's got their stuff and they're going to get a refund, I'm still going to get it to them.
Mm.
If someone's really still worried about where their Q1 numbers are going to look like, I'm going to get a projection for them by the middle of May, versus it gives us a little bit of time. We don't need to get it all done by April 15th, but I certainly want to make sure I have an idea by, let's say, the middle of May where my clients are. So if you're using a different CPA, I mean, I would wait maybe till, send them an email maybe the first or second week of April and say, hey, is it possible to do a 2020 projection on my numbers for the first 4 months so that I can have an idea of if an obligation is going to be due to be paid in for 2020 at this point.
Okay. I like that. And then let's say that we are in a cash position to be able to make our payments both on June 15th and July 15th. Are there things like, is there even worth a conversation to figure out what does the rest of 2020 look like? Or are you like, Lou, like seriously, can we like get through this? We can't even make that conversation yet?
I try to help my clients with, budgeting and cash flow stuff. But even in my head, sitting in meetings over the last week or two, I feel almost helpless, just like everyone else. Like, yeah, I can show you what I thought our 2020 budget is, but you're at home also watching your kids too, homeschooling, and you're like, the phone's not even ringing anyway. So
Right.
is this budget that we're working on accurate? Probably not. So it's just so important to keep an eye on things as it's going along. Mm-hmm. Hopefully everything's going to be back to normal by the summer, and then it's going to give us time to kind of see what the damage was and then reassess and be like, okay, is business back to normal now? Are we going to see even higher numbers in the fall at the end of 2020 because everyone's been sitting around their house and they realize, I mean, I've been doing it too, they realize there's problems in my house and I need a designer to come in and fix them, right? So maybe we're going to see booming business hopefully by the end of the year, and if that's the case, then you can make your third quarter and fourth quarter payments appropriate for that from there. Right. But for now it's kind of like this gives us more of a time to kind of hold our money and wait and see what's really going to happen, and then we can, as when June and July come, we can make accurate payments based on what's going to happen over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Right. And the thing is it's such a hard conversation to have when you and I are sitting here, your family is safe, my family is safe, so many of the designers listening, their families are safe, but it's hard to ignore that not everybody that's listening their family is safe. There are people that you can't have hundreds of thousands of cases and not know that there's some of our colleagues that literally are facing this from a actual health crisis level, right? So, but the thing about it is that, Peter, there's a lot of businesses and a lot of people that even if like they are home, they're going to be okay. And so there is this weird thing of having a conversation that, like you just said, you're sitting in your house, you're homeschooling your 7-year-old boys, your wife is, your wife works in a hospital. That's insanity, right? That's just a whole nother layer of craziness. But you're noticing things about your house that are projects that you want to do. And because you run a smart business and you are financially smart and solvent, when you pick your head up, the two of you just might look at each other and say, yeah, now let's go do this design project or this renovation. Right?
My wife's wish list is probably going to actually come true quicker now,
right?
Because of this, yeah.
Right, because you just are like, why have we been putting up with this? And you have been because you've been busy. And so this is the weird little twist in here as business owners to not feel guilty about really fighting for our clients and marketing for our clients. And really, when I say fighting for our clients, I mean fighting for our business to survive and to understand that as serious as it is, many of us have an entire demographic of clients that their finances might take a hit, but they're not going to be devastated, right?
Right. That's funny that you brought that up because I had a meeting this morning with a client. She had a great idea. She's home and she's said that to just think in marketing, she sent a list out to all her past clients and said, listen, first and foremost, I hope you're all healthy, and that's the most important thing. But also, while you're binging Netflix,
Yeah.
and you're thinking of all these things that you might want to do, we can hop on a Zoom call. We can
Yep.
hop on the phone and talk about these things. And I can even, do research from home so that when things get back to normal or even before that, we can start a project
Right.
and get going. So, yes, just like every other business, there are ways to be marketing and make sure that revenue's still going to be able to come in if
Yes.
that's possible.
And the thing is, it's I just find that what I'm hearing and talking is that if unless you have many years of experience in business, sometimes it's hard to understand that there is always a portion of our population that doesn't take the financial hit the way the masses do. So there are that upper level that forget 1%ers, the 10%ers, you know what I'm saying? That
Yep.
are sitting at home and saying, that's why I mentioned the article in the introduction, because I had a conversation with an interior designer a week ago who's a luxury designer. And she said, well, I can't really go measure projects now. I really can't, the construction is closed down in my community and it's really hard to do all these things. But I'm home with my kids all week, homeschooling them. And I just put it out there in my social media that I would do FaceTime consultations. And this interior designer brought in nearly 4K in 1 week doing
Nice.
our FaceTime consultations, because one of the clients was in South America. You know what I'm saying? Like, this people are just like, hey, walk me around my house and tell me where to move the sofa and what kind of color I should do here. And so the idea is not to be afraid to fight for the survival of your business. Is my little side note to your financial conversation, because there are
Right.
people that do still have their finances intact. I mean, if you have businesses and homeowners that follow our friend Michelle Williams, profit first, you've been putting your profit away. You've been putting your taxes away. You're prepared, right?
Yep. And more people who are potential clients because of this situation are going to get more comfortable with doing things virtually. So as long as you are, as a business owner, comfortable doing that, then it opens up a potential new revenue stream
Exactly.
that you might not have thought was possible from before.
Exactly. Now, is there anything like, do you have any of your clients saying, oh my goodness, now they extended the deadline, but I already filed it? Like, like what's that
Yep.
about?
Okay, so it also allows you to take advantage of certain things till July 15th that normally you would have to contribute by April 15th. And what I mean by that is if you were eligible for like a traditional IRA deduction that you get on your tax return, there's a max amount that has to be paid by April 15th. There's also a health savings account deduction. So if you are someone who has a health savings account, there's max there. So if based on your financial situation, if you were in a position where you were like, okay, well, let's say the max for a family on an HSA is 7,000, right? And we were only able to put 3,500 in. We knew that by April 15th we were going to do that. We filed our tax return, and now you're like, well, wait a minute. I put $500 in a month. Now I could have gotten, the difference, right, for my 2019, but I already filed. Don't worry about it. You can actually, if I were you, I would just keep contributing to 2019 past April 15th all the way to July 15th. Keep doing that and wait until after July 15th. See how much you could contribute extra to get to that max, whatever that is. And then after July 15th, if you use a tax preparer, you can call them up and just say, hey, I took advantage of the extra 90 days and I was able to max out my HSA for 2019. And so now we're just going to be able to amend the return for you. We can do that again. We just do that. And it takes a while. It's probably going to take even longer for the IRS, but you will get that extra refund back with the amended return at some point.
Okay.
The other thing is a Roth IRA. So if you are under the income limitations to be able to do that, you don't get a tax deduction on your 2019 tax return. But if you weren't able to max out your Roth IRA contributions that you're allowed to by April 15th, you now have until July 15th to do that. So if you're someone who contributes, for example, let's say you just throw $200 a month every month to your Roth, it didn't get to the 6,000, let's say, max that you are, you have 90 days now to just keep making sure that you're contributing still to 2019.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Sense.
Yeah, it
Normally,
does.
the investment companies will kind of shut that 2019 option off after April 15th. This particular situation, they're going to keep it open now until July 15th. So just make sure you keep dumping the money into the 2019 if you have not already maxed that out.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. So now we've been talking about income tax. What about sales tax? Do we have changes there too?
Okay, so I live in Rhode Island. We don't have any changes in sales tax. I don't know. I have not heard of any states that have relaxed the sales tax rules. If they have, I would say they might do it for maybe 4 weeks, but the states are going to be hurt by this relief package. I mean,
yes,
states are going to be hurt anyway, but like the governor of Rhode Island, I listened to her news conference every day, and that was a question that came up, and she said, "No, I'm not going to allow you to do that." And the reason why is because, and I agree with her, the sales tax amount that you have to pay, that don't consider that like, oh, it's another tax that they're charging me. You're just doing a favor for the jurisdiction. You're collecting that money for the customer
right.
and you're holding it and you're saying, so really you should have a separate account anyway for the amount of sales tax so that when it's due, you just pay it, because really
it was never your money.
Right. Commingling that money, you're going to get into trouble anyway. And we've talked about that before. So I would not delay that, because being late on those sales tax, the penalties and interest and are harsher. And I know of a couple of states where if you don't pay that in, they will literally shut you down. I mean, a lot of places are shut down anyway, but in a normal course of business, you could come to work and find a lock on your door of your business if you don't cooperate with the sales tax. So I would say, yes, we're getting relief for income tax, but as far as sales tax is concerned, continue to keep paying that on time.
Right. And to the point, it wasn't our money to begin with. It really was just us being the agent of collecting it. And to the other point is that the states are going to need this money to give us all these services and relief packages that they're trying to, do, right? I mean, let's be serious. So
exactly.
Okay, and then that brings us to where we're at with the current federal government and the stimulus package. Right now, as you and I are talking, it has passed the Senate, but it has not been signed, but we're expecting it to be signed probably less than 24 hours from the time of our conversation. So by the time everybody's hearing this, Pete, it'll have been probably signed for 1 week. You want to talk to us a little bit about this and what does this mean and offer to us as small business owners?
Sure. So the first thing is, if you think about just as an individual, they are trying to get some sort of money to each person in the United States as quick as possible. Right now, they're saying that it's going to be $1,200 per person plus $500 for each dependent that you have. So a family of 4 would get $3,400. Now, they're adding income thresholds to that. So if you're a single person and you make less than $75,000, you'll get the full amount. If you're married and you have adjusted gross income less than $150,000, you will get the full amount. And then they're still working out, but let's say every $1,000 more than 75 or 150, they're going to take $5 off that amount. So just because you made more, if you're listening and you're like, oh crap, I made more than 150,000, I'm married, I'm not going to get anything, you still probably will get something. It just will be lower. And right now what they're doing is they're basing it on your 2018 tax return, or if you've already filed your 2019 return, they're looking at that.
Okay.
So that is how they're going to do it. They're quickly doing that, looking at that, those old tax returns, kind of checking them quick because they really just want to get the money to people as fast as possible. Now, the other issue, which is an interesting issue, is that I heard that if you direct deposited in the past, that is on record with the IRS. So hopefully you have the same bank account, and they are going to try to direct deposit that money in accounts as fast as they can, similar to like when you file and you're getting a refund, because printing those checks and mailing them out, that's going to just delay it even more.
And it's an expense too.
Exactly.
Right.
What a mess.
Right. So let's break this down a little bit just so we make sure we understand. First of all, if you are single and you made less than $75,000, you are eligible for $1,200. If you are single and you made less than $75,000 and you have, say, 2 kids, it's $1,200 plus 5 for each kid. If you are a married couple, together your income less than $150, together joint income, right?
Yep.
Okay, but let's say you are a married couple and you made $160. What you're saying is that that's $10,000. Here, watch me do math. This is hysterical.
Gosh.
So we're going to do $10,000. So that's $10,000 times $5. What? 10 times $5? Look at me.
How about we do this?
Okay.
It's going to be a little less. Than,
but it seems like negligibly less is what I'm trying to get at, right? It's like $50 or something.
But if you look at it with the people that are really
making $500,000, right? Yeah.
But hopefully this is going to help at least, pay that mortgage for 1 month while everyone's trying to figure out what's going on.
Sure.
Or, something like that. So.
And does if you say you're because look, I'm in the New York City area. We've got, the $500,000 joint income is easy to, could throw a rock and hit 20 of them. Right. And so the thing is if you're in that threshold, that bracket, does the $500 for each kid also reduce by the $5 too? Or do all kids get $500 no matter what?
I would think that at least the kids should get that, but honestly, to be honest with you, I haven't gotten.
We don't know, and that's where Vinny goes, LuAnn, who cares about this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, you're being ridiculous. Okay. But you know me, I like to know everything. Okay.
I understand.
Yep. Okay. So, and by the way, it doesn't matter. Okay. So, but the thing is that this is, this is a threshold. If you're in this threshold, you need this help now. That's the point. This is going to be helpful. And it is, like you said, and is it 12? So it's 12. Yeah. So $3,400. That really is like your monthly mortgage or your rent payment or something like that.
Exactly.
If you're a family.
Hopefully if this goes on for 4 to 8 weeks, hopefully that will cover 1 month's worth of that, where it's less stress to deal with on this one little thing.
Right. And how do we get it, Peter? I mean, I know that you're talking about the delivery process. It might be direct deposit, but how do you apply and get it, or is it just going to show up?
All you have to do is have a Social Security number in the United States. So as long as you're an American with a Social Security number, you will get it.
So if you are direct deposit, you've done your income tax and so forth by direct deposit and direct whatever, then you're going to get it that way. And if not, you're going to get a check in the mail at some point.
Correct.
Okay.
And they keep talking about what day. Hopefully that this all gets signed tomorrow and everything's all set. I mean, it sounds to me like they are really vested in getting this money to everyone as soon as possible. I don't see the benefit of delaying anymore.
Right.
But I've heard April 6th. I've heard April 13th.
Okay.
So let's just say hopefully by the end of the first week of April, some of us will be seeing that money hit our accounts, and it'll be a welcome.
It's kind of remarkable that we don't have to go 16, hoops of red tape to get it. It's amazing. That's pretty amazing. So, okay, I love it. All right.
It's a national pandemic in order for that to happen, right?
It just shows you what they can do if they get busy and do it. That's the thing too, right? So that's from a personal, like you said, that's what's in the stimulus package for us as individual human beings. And how about as business owners, Peter?
Sorry, before I start with the business, can I just say one more thing is that I was wondering if they were going to tax this on next year's tax return, because they've done that before with like relief packages when we're dealing with like a financial crisis. From everything that I've heard, it's not going to be taxable. However, what they're actually going to do is when you file your 2020 tax return, let's say you make, because if you might be thinking to yourself when you hear this, well, geez, that year they're going to look at, I made a ton of money and I was over a threshold, and now I'm not going to make that much money this year because everything that's going on. They're going to kind of almost do like a reconciliation and look at your 2020 return. And let's say you got a portion, like we said, there was a threshold, you got a portion, and you in 2020 made less than that amount, they're going to give you credit on your 2020 return. Opposite. If you, I heard potentially if you got money and you really shouldn't have, they might extra tax you. So just something to kind of look at, like if there's a random thing next year in 2021 and you're looking at your tax return, you're like, what's this extra rebate or what's this extra tax for? It's potentially possible that the reconciliation will happen and it might work itself out. The other thing I want to say is that a lot of people are collecting unemployment right now. Mm-hmm. And I just want to let you know that I know the states are rushing quickly to get those unemployment checks for you. So I'm not sure if they're even bothering taking withholding out, but unemployment is taxable on your personal return. So you want to just make sure that you know that you will get a tax document next year for the unemployment that you collect, and it will be taxable. So just kind of either maybe you're already getting federal withholding taken out of your check. But anyway, that is going to be something that's taxable that you might want to keep a portion of a small percentage of what you're receiving in unemployment, because you're going to be taxed on it. Oh,
that's interesting. So I just got it in there. So what you're saying is if you're collecting unemployment, look at your unemployment stub. And if because they're in such a mad rush to help, if they're not taking the withholding tax out, you've got to squirrel that away because it's going to hit you next year.
Yep. The state is going to send you a tax document like you get a W-2 or even like anything else. You're going to get that. It's going to say unemployment earned, federal withholding. And if it's blank, then you got to make up for it on the return.
And that's critical, because if you are on unemployment, you're already financially compromised and therefore probably needing every single dime of it. But to get socked with it next year, if God forbid, you didn't get into a different financial situation, that could be really pretty shocking.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So just I know it's a tough time for everyone right now with money. Just try to hold on to a little bit because it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, it's like the old theory of, the $10 a week over the course of a year is going to turn into something. So you don't notice the $10, but it turns into something, right?
Correct.
So, okay. Awesome. All righty. So anything else on the personal end before you tell us what we do from a business standpoint? Because I'm bated breath trying to figure that out.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. So, the VidMan is all talking about, we have a pretty sizable payroll at WindowWorks, Peter. It is our number, other than cost of goods, our cost of goods is our number one line item expense, but payroll, I believe, is our number two line item expense. And so we are hearing rumblings about, to keep our big staff of 9 people on staff, even though they're at home and working, remotely and working on the business type activities, because there's going to be some relief for small business owners in the stimulus package. Tell us about that.
Okay. So obviously the government is trying to keep the economy as well as they possibly can given the circumstances. And so they want small business owners to keep their employees and keep paying them payroll. So they are offering more relaxed rules on small business loans. So any business that has less than 500 employees is eligible to receive a loan in the amount of, so what they're looking at is your total monthly payments for payroll, mortgage or rent payments, and any other payments to other debt obligations during the 1 year period before the date of the loan. So if you looked at how much you pay, and you guys, I'm sure Vin has he knows exactly how much he pays for payroll in a month and how much you might have for a mortgage or rent payment, and then anything else like vehicles or some other type of debt obligation. They will let you take a loan out to up to 2.5 times that amount. They are relaxing there's a fee, a minimum fee that they charge in order to apply for a small business loan. They're relaxing that. And so you can get this loan out and you can use it to pay your payroll. And your mortgage and rent, utilities, and other debt obligations. So you can use that money. Let's see. You need to have been in business as of March 1st, 2020, which was only, 3.5 weeks ago. And you also need to have been paying employees a salary. So if you have employees and you've been in business for longer than 3.5 weeks, you are eligible to take out a small business loan if you need it. And what's interesting, I was just reading, so I was taking notes yesterday after I texted you and everything, but it's any business that's experiencing supply chain disruption, staffing challenges, decrease in sales of customers, and closed businesses because of the virus. Now that at this point, probably every single business in the United States could say, yes, that's me.
Right.
You can apply anytime from now until June 30th. And then the big thing is, based on certain calculations, the government is going to actually potentially forgive a portion of the loan. So let's see, forgiveness, it's going to be based on the total payroll costs that you incur during the time, because like we had said, they want the businesses to continue to pay their employees. So if you do, they are going to look over the 2.5 month period. They're going to call this the covered period, the March, March 15th to June 15th, somewhere around there, of while we're dealing with this crisis. And if, not to complicate things, but if your sales, they're going to compare the sales during this time period that you have now with the sales on the same time period from a year ago. And if you can prove that your sales went down a certain percentage and you continued to pay your employees a certain percentage, like let's say more than 80% of what you normally pay them, then a portion is going to get forgiven of the loan.
Well, okay, so I have tons of questions in here, and I love this. And all I can say is, do you know how many times on this show I have said, I can go right to our sales log right now and tell you what our sales were in May of 1982, in May of 1992, right? And of course, we have said 3 or 4 times at WindowWorks, our number one, 3-month period of business by far is May, June, and July, like by far. Like we can do as much business in those 3 months at WindowWorks that we do in the other nine months put together. So thank God that I've got 38 years of records for this business, right? Okay, so the question...
You got to have good records.
Yes, yes.
Because when it comes... So what's going to end up happening, I should say, is if you take this loan out and you're thinking in your head, I'm going to, keep my employees. I know my sales are going to go down by the amount that they say, and I'm going to be eligible to have loan forgiveness. You're going to have to apply for this forgiveness in the time period that they expect, which is probably going to be sometime between July 1st and whatever they come up with. I don't know what that date is going to be yet. But they're also going to ask you for proof. So what does proof mean? Proof is going to mean probably back P&L statements, definitely your payroll records. So the payroll processing companies are going to be very busy with all of this. So you're definitely going to want to have good records. And if you don't, you need to kind of go back and try to build good records, because if you fill out a forgiveness application but you don't include any backup, it already says they're going to deny it.
They're going to deny it.
So the more you can get. So right now, when you have more time, I would go back. If you think, yes, I'm definitely going to keep my employees, I'm going to pay them as much of a salary as normal, and I am experiencing this decrease in sales, while you may have more time, go back right now and just start collecting monthly P&Ls and old quarterly, monthly, and also detailed payroll records for your employees for every pay period for 2019. I would just have them all.
Right,
because
get them ready.
They are talking about potentially doing another stimulus package at some point too. So why not just get
it
your
all
ducks
done
in a row, put it in wherever in a secure backup, so that you have it, so that when it comes time to file and you have a certain amount of time, whatever they say, to get that application in for forgiveness, you're already 10 steps ahead and you're all set. You fill out the application, you include the backup that they request, and it did say that they were going to try to approve forgiveness of the loans within 2 weeks. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but it is something that they seem like they're trying to do, and they're going to try to process this stuff as soon as they possibly can.
So I have a couple of questions. So going back to the top, you're saying when we go, first of all, we probably, what do we go to, the SBA.gov or something?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be an SBA loan.
Okay, so SBA loan. Okay, now you said how they're coming up with the amount that you are approved for a loan is based on the combination of your payroll, your rent, and your other debt. Is that what you said? Okay.
Correct.
And so other debt could be if you have vehicle payments, you said, is it like, I don't know, you bought 14 computers for every designer in your place. Like, is that
and
kinds of things?
If you're financing that and you're paying a monthly fee for something, yes, that would
Okay.
definitely include. They just, they of course call it other debt. That's all they say.
Okay. So
but picture if you're paying monthly for something that you're financing for, whether it's office furniture or computers or whatever, and that you have that monthly bill and you pay that same amount every year, and there's maybe a little bit of interest or no interest, whatever, but it's the same amount every month, that counts as other debt that you can pay off with this loan as well. Okay,
so let's just use hypothetical. Let's just say that I have like $20,000 in payroll. Do you do it by the week or the month?
I would say let's do month.
Okay, so let's say you have $20,000 in payroll for the month. Your rent is $5,000, and your other debt is another $5,000. So that's whatever that is. That's $30,000, right?
Yep, $30,000. Yep.
So it's $30,000. And what you're saying is, now when I go to the SBA website, I'm going to apply for 30,000 times 2.5. So I'm going to apply for $75,000.
Basically, you don't have to, but you can apply for up to $75,000 in that situation. Yes.
Okay, and that just like, why wouldn't I apply for the max, especially if there's a potential that all or some of it is going to be forgiven? Is that correct, or am I crazy?
Right. If you don't need it, you just pay it back when everything hopefully gets back to normal.
Oh, so okay, so that's a great point. So say I apply for this max $75,000, and 3 weeks from now the world is crazy and it's wonderful, and I don't know, some miracle happened and we're all back to work and I can meet all my bills. Then somebody's going to say, "Hey, come on back with the other 40,000 you didn't use."
Well, they're not going to, because they could. There's a small low interest amount, but they can make interest. But if you think you're secure and everything's back to normal and fine, I would
just pay it back.
Yeah,
understood.
Just pay it back.
So we are okay. So that's the little nudge in there that I was forgetting. It is a loan with a small interest rate. We don't know. So you're saying is the first step is apply for the loan, get it, but then there's a second step that will come that you apply for the forgiveness of the loan.
Correct. Yep. So you've got to apply for that loan, up to 2.5 amount. They're not going to charge a fee for doing that. They normally do. You get the money. And then if you feel after, after a couple of months, the number of weeks that they're giving, if you feel like based on the exact rules and your sales and the amount you're paying in payroll, if you feel like you can get a portion or all of that loan forgiven, it's going to be your responsibility to apply again for forgiveness with the documentation.
Okay.
And if you don't do that, then you just have to pay back the loan.
You just pay
with the interest payment based on that. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I have to tell you, 2 or 3 nights ago, before any of this came up, Vin spent probably 2.5 hours trying to complete an SBA loan application. And I don't know that it ever went through. So 2 questions. Number 1, in case on the possibility, because I never even followed up with them and asked them if it got through. It was one of those, here he is on the sofa screaming and yelling at the computer. I put that information in. Why won't it go send, So 2 questions. If it did go through, and there are other listeners out there who did apply for a loan 3 days ago, is it the same? Like the questions and the answers are the same? It's not like it's at a disadvantage if he applied 3 days ago before this stimulus went in? And B, is it just that the system is so overwhelmed and just keep plugging and trying to apply? But, were there different questions that they would have asked on Monday that they'll be asking after this actually passes, Pete?
Well, for that, I don't know. I don't know how quick they're updating their website on that, but I do know that they are retroactively looking at this. So if you applied, let's say, a week ago before they passed it, or 2 weeks ago or whatever, I believe they've kind of retroed it enough where like anyone in the last 4 to 6 weeks is going to be eligible
in the
for
new
this.
way that the rules are. They're
Correct.
Not like, sorry, you
Even
got in on the old rules.
Right. Exactly. If you filled out the old application 2 weeks ago, I think that it's okay. Like you still, even though the law wasn't passed, you still are eligible if it makes sense to be potentially possible to forgive some of that as well.
Okay, I love it. And then the question is, how do you get the money? Vin understood that you have your application filled and you go to the bank and the bank is going to just cut you a check. Like, what is that?
It's a good question because I can't even catch a check. They won't let me in to our local bank. So that's a really good question. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to ask that, and they're going to hopefully work with the banks similar to this, that individual check that's coming in, where they would hopefully without a fee wire that into your business checking account. I would think there's no way they're going to say, okay, you approve, now go down to the bank and collect your money. I mean, based on what's going on, they want everyone to stay in. So,
right. But that was what he understood. He understood that it was basically going to go from the government to your bank account, and you just access it through your bank account. And you're thinking that's the same thing?
Logically, then yes. I mean, if you want everyone to stay away from one another, then that's the easiest way to do it for sure. Right.
So that it just goes right to our bank account, and our payroll company deducts all of our employees' payroll just like the world goes on. That's basically the whole point of it.
Yep.
Okay. Now, this applies, though. The very important distinction here is you can't either have already or you can't lay off your employees.
Well, if you're looking for forgiveness, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a complicated percentage that they were talking about, but when this is all said and done, the amount that you pay in payroll during this special time needs to be of a certain amount still. I believe it might be 80%. In order to get the forgiveness. So if the quarter's over, let's say this quarter period is over, that all this is happening, but you only paid your employees, let's say 10 or 20% of what they normally get paid, the amount that you potentially could get forgiven is probably not going to be anything, because the whole point of forgiving this is to They're trying to make you pay what you normally would pay your employees,
Right.
the full amount or pretty darn close to that
it.
amount.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I get that. And so the question then is, what if I'm a business owner? I've already spoken to many firms that a week ago, they laid their employees off. They called it furlough. So there's one firm here that I'm aware of that the designer said to me, our entire team was furloughed. And so we're all have applied for unemployment, and the understanding is because we've been furloughed that our jobs are guaranteed when this is over. So an employer, a firm owner that took that measure a week or 2 weeks ago, is it too late for that employer to say, oh, okay, let's put everybody back on payroll and let me try and keep this ship going with this stimulus? Because I'm going to tell you why. This is number one, it's the technical. Is it, can you go back and forth like this? But like for us, at Window Works, we have these 10 employees, and we have been on, all non-essential businesses can't go to work at this point that you and I are talking for 6 days or whatever it is. And we had not put our employees on unemployment. We opted because we have some resources, and we're just like, we're not going to, it's what I keep saying, don't overreact, but don't not act. So we took other measures to monitor our cash flow and our expenses. The first line measure was not our employees. And the other reason, and we said when we've been having our daily Zoom meetings with our employees every day, is, I show up at the Zoom meeting and we're all talking about strategies that we can do as a team to possibly keep sales coming in, to possibly work on different systems in our business that we are always too fast and too furious to be able to slow down and do. And so the idea is that we've said, you're getting your full paycheck and you're home, but it's not Netflix. It's not a snow day.
Right.
Maybe you're not working an 8-hour day. I'm not sitting here thinking they're working an 8-hour day. But if we all come up with projects that every single person on the team can do, then I don't have a problem asking them to do it. Whereas my colleague who laid off all of their employees and furloughed them, you're not asking them to work for you on your behalf when you're not paying them.
No, they no longer work for you
anymore. Right.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, like, if someone didn't take our route and somebody did lay off and ask and put their employees on furlough, can they reverse that if it was only last week, or is it too late?
I mean, I would think if it's only been a week or two, and you brought them all back and you have the cash still to pay for it while you wait for this loan and you keep going, when it's all said and done and you consistently do that, when they look back on that covered period that they're talking about, the percentage would still be high enough where you probably would be still eligible. Okay. If you wait till next month to apply and then they've been gone for a month, then it might not be worth it because you're probably going to have to pay the loan back anyway. Right. So
what I'm hearing is that it's still our government, which can be very onerous and red tapey and all that other stuff, right? During most times of our lives, but this is obviously a true crisis. And what I'm hearing is that there is a sense of, it is what is the point of it. So in other words, if the point of the stimulus package, if one of the points is to keep the workforce working, there's not going to be that whoops. You cut the line on, March 15th, and now on March 20th, we did this, so you're out. It's like, no, we actually, as a government, want you to put them back on your payroll. So we're not going to play this game of you missed it, right? It's almost like they want it to work for the reason that they want it to work.
If there was ever a moment that what you're saying was going to happen,
it's now.
It's actually
That's
now.
What you're saying.
For the people who said it's never going to happen, it is happening now. Whether it happens again, who knows? But yes, it seems to me that they're genuinely concerned with the economy and the welfare of employees and Americans, and they are doing. I don't want to say they're doing everything that they can, but they are trying to do as much as they can to alleviate the stress of this crisis.
Right. Because typically it is one of those, you put the T in the wrong spot. Sorry, you
Oh
don't get it. Right?
Yeah, as an accountant, when I'm finally reading the details, I'm like, oh, you guys, you just made it just about as complicated as you had to be at the end. Great job.
Right, right. But this time they're really trying to make it so that it works. They're making it so that the intent is able to happen, as opposed to excluding as many businesses. They really are trying to make it inclusive. And so when I just recap this a little bit, so if you have, well, and before I do that recap, what if I'm a solopreneur, I'm not eligible for unemployment and all that stuff, but I am eligible for a SBA loan, right?
Yes, but actually, it's interesting that you said that, because they are, for the first time ever, allowing sole proprietors and solopreneurs to collect unemployment.
Whoa.
Because they realize that they're realizing that it's not fair right now.
Well, it never was fair. I complained about that my whole life.
and we're all in this together. So from what I heard, they are allowing that to happen. So if you're sitting here and you're like, I'm by myself, I don't have any employees, I'm screwed, no one's going to give me a thing, you can apply for unemployment as well. Okay.
And it's so funny because we learned that harsh lesson in the recession in the early 90s. And I had a show a couple of weeks ago, episode number 519, and I was saying, like, the first line things that, I recorded that show, I think it's 2 weeks ago, feels like a year ago. Okay. But the first line things that we were doing at WindowWorks in order to, look this beast in the eyeballs as opposed to putting our head in the sand. And I explained how we went, how our experience of that first recession, and how we literally almost lost WindowWorks because we did put our head in the sand and we're like, it's not going to be that bad. It'll be fine, right? But when it really finally got pushed to shove, I remember learning that lesson very coldly, that as a self-employed person, you could not get unemployment insurance. And the thing was, after I got done yelling to 9,000 people about it, somebody finally sat me down and said, well, LuAnn, let's understand something. You could say that your business can't support you, and then it would be like double dipping. You would, if you were self-employed and you were on unemployment insurance, you'd probably still be working to make your business work. So that would be double dipping. And I got that. And I did get that. And I sat back on it. But then I said, then don't take the darn the money out of my paycheck every week. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the thing that made me crazy. It was like, now who's double dipping? Every single week for my entire 39 years in business, you've taken the unemployment money out of my paycheck as the owner of my business. But like what? So that just makes me crazy. Anyway, sure. So anyway, all right. So recapping a little bit. We have these deadlines for our taxes, that the first quarter deadline has been adjusted to July 15th, but the second quarter, which is due June 15th, is still due June 15th. So don't get screwed up and have to pay penalties because you think it's all getting pushed back. We're also saying, Pete, you're going to correct me as I recap, we're also saying that even if you've got the money to make your tax payments, at least for the next 2 or 3 weeks in real time, as we're talking the last week of March, it's probably not a bad idea to hedge your bet and just play chess a little bit and hold the money close to the vest, and then, make it when you need to make it. But it's okay to kind of squirrel it for just a minute to see where the world shakes out. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. The other thing that we're saying is that, definitely take a look for when you're going to receive this individual part of the stimulus plan for the $1,200 per person and the $500 per child, and that should just show up with either in a direct deposit or in the mail. And then the last thing is this stimulus package regarding a small business owner, and to take a look at we're going to look at 2018's calendar of 3/15 to 6/15, and we're going to look at our payroll, our rent, and our other debt. That's what you said, and then we're going to
2019.
I said yes, 2019. I keep thinking we're in 2019. So 2019's period of time, March 15th to June 15th. And Peter, do we just put the numbers in and then they will automatically calculate it, or do we put it in the numbers and then they verify it? We have to come up with the proof, or like, what's the process of doing that?
They're gonna do all of that for you.
Okay, so I don't come up with what my number is and say, okay, Mr. Government, I'm applying for 75,000. I just apply and they'll go find my tax records and everything else.
Correct. Yeah, they're going to do all of that and quickly look at your old stuff in their records and just get the money out as fast as possible.
Okay. And then the other thing to be really, really cognizant of is that is a loan. It's my understanding that it's going to be at a really, really low rate, so that's good. But if you want and you think you might qualify, and maybe you have a conversation with your CFO or your CPA, that there is the second phase, which is to apply for possible partial or full forgiveness of this loan.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. A two-step process. Just by qualifying and getting the loan, that just means you have a loan, but forgiveness is a separate step. Okay.
Correct. And then there's one more thing that they're allowing businesses to do, and that is in regards to the payroll tax, the employer portion of payroll tax. You're potentially going to be able to get a credit for each quarter during this. If you stayed open and your gross receipts for the quarter was less than 50%, so you saw a substantial decrease in business, but you still paid your employees, for every quarter that this happens, there's going to be a threshold amount per employee. But you will get, if you meet those numbers, they're going to give you a credit on your payroll tax part as well. Wow. And the other thing they're going to allow people to do, so if you're in a if you're in a cash crunch right now and you're still trying to figure, I got to deal with rent and payroll taxes, all this stuff, any payroll taxes, employer portion of payroll taxes that are due during this time, they're deferring that, and they're telling you that if you want, you can wait and pay 50% down in 2021 and the other 50% down in 2022. So not to get too complicated, but that's another thing where and the payroll companies might contact you during this time if you do decide to keep that your employees, and you getting forgiveness on that payroll portion. You might also get a credit on the payroll taxes if your numbers work out as well, or you might not have to pay that in until next year when you're hopefully your business is in a more healthy position.
Wow. Okay. So the bottom line is that this is a lot of information.
It is, yeah.
Yes, and if I hadn't been having, half a dozen conversations with Vin over the last week, I'm not sure that I would be able to digest it in one conversation. And so if anybody finds themselves in that same position, Peter, where maybe this is new information or that's just the dots aren't connecting, is it our CPA that we go to say, hey, sit still a minute, walk me through all this and let me know, should I be applying for this loan and how do what can I expect to get? Is that the person that we should go to, Peter?
Yeah, I would say anyone that you work with financially or as far as taxes are concerned, you could just have a conversation and just say, listen, from what I'm hearing, I still am interested, or I am keeping my employees on, but we're seeing some substantial decrease here in sales revenue, and it sounds like I can get some forgiveness or some credits. So, when it comes to your payroll tax portion, I would contact your payroll service provider and just say, hey, are you guys going to automatically stop taking the employer portion of my payroll tax like you normally do and making those biweekly or monthly payments to the government? Are you going to just automatically stop that and tell me that I have until 2021 to pay that off? Or are you going to keep taking that money until I tell you not to, type of thing? And then as far as the business loans are concerned, like we had said, it sounds like, whether it's easy or not, but it sounds like the application process is on a certain website. I would then if I was someone, I would contact my CPA if you do get a loan and say, hey, can we just go through the reports and the documentation and look at these numbers and see, do I match the final say, whatever they come up with, the final percentage for forgiveness, and can you help me apply for the forgiveness and make sure I have everything straight and ready and in by the deadline so that I get a forgiveness result as quick as possible.
I love it. So much stuff. I mean, my head's spinning just tiny bit.
Yeah, I know. Mine is too, and I'm a
right.
geek about this stuff.
But you know what I love. I've said it over and over again that you're very easy to talk to. You have patience with the same question being asked 3 different times in 3 different ways because it still didn't get through. And I appreciate that so much about you, Peter, that you really are in it and you really are a partner with designers. And I almost, I don't even know how much more business we can throw your way. Can you handle it all if 20 more designers want to work with the designer CPA this year?
20? Yeah, I mean, we go day by day, LuAnn.
Okay, good. All righty. Well, I would just want to say that I recommend that you go back and listen to both of Peter's other episodes, like I mentioned, 349 and 464, not topical information, but always good information for running the finance side of your business. And of course, I mentioned the episode 519 recently, where we talked about some of the measures that we were taking at WindowWorks. And I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Mydoma Studio, because right now in real time, when you're listening to this, next week is starting our huge virtual summit that we are planning, myself with Sarah Daniele and Mydoma Studio and her team, and it's called 19 Hours. And if you have not heard about this yet, we are gathering some of the top business minds in interior design, both from the point of the expert, the coach side, and also the interior design firm owners. And we are doing this 19 hours of content from Monday, April 6th to Thursday, April 9th. We will have presentations every single day, 11, 1, and 3. Some days there's an additional presentation at 5. And every day at 1 o'clock, I'm going to lead a panel discussion with some of the leading minds in our industry. And then on the 11 to 3 o'clock slots, many people have a solo presentation. And here's the thing: the 19 Hours Digital Summit is all about ways to run your business more profitably, and it is almost going to be impossible not to skew some of the conversation to the fact of the crisis that we're in, this COVID-19 crisis. And so it's information that's going to come to you on both levels, information that will serve you always in your business, no matter what the climate is, but also topical conversation about some of the things that you and some of your colleagues and peers are doing in order to keep their business afloat and to have it so that there is a business that coming through all of this. So if you have not signed up yet for this free summit, please go to mydomastudio.com/19 hours. Okay. And I have to just give a huge shout out to all of my sponsors. Can I tell you that these are the sponsors of this podcast: Article, Cravit, Mydoma Studio, Jaipur, Monogram, and Kirsch. Okay, you haven't heard a lot from me yet about Monogram and Kirsch, but Monogram and Jaipur, but they are both getting onboarded right now, and you will start to learn more about these 2 sponsors. But all 6 of the sponsors of a well-designed podcast, and every single one of them, I'm going to tell you, in less than 2 hours, checked with their team and came back and said, yes, we want to be a part of this with you. We will help you in marketing and advertising this. So yay to a well-designed business podcast community, because every single one of you connected to this, from sponsor to listener to guest, is just the most amazing, sharing, outstanding community that I've ever witnessed. And I'm so grateful for all of you. And these sponsors have your back. They are interested in your businesses surviving. And please do whatever you can to, just like you are supporting your small business in your local community now, you want the podcast and all this great information to keep coming to you. Even if it's just a thank you email to any one of these businesses that are bringing this podcast to you. It's so important. So mydomastudio.com/19 hours. And Peter, you are at thedesignercpa.com?
Correct. Yep.
Yes. Okay. And I love the resources that you have there. So please check out Peter at thedesignercpa.com. And thank you so much, Peter, for reaching out and being so timely with this, and spending this time with me and all of us today and helping us, really understand the resources that are available to help us get through this, because we can get through it, right? We can get through it, right, Peter?
We will get through it. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining me today, everybody. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.